picture this. I've recently joined LoudCloud. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, running sales, EVP of sales. I'm attending my first board meeting at LoudCloud. And I am doing my presentation. And I'm talking about sales, strategy, pipeline. And one of the other board members is asking a lot of questions about the pipeline. How many deals, how big is this, where is this, what's going on, the whole bit. And I'm answering and I'm responding. I think I'm doing all right. And then, shut the f up. And I'm thinking, oh my God. But he wasn't talking to me. It was Bill Campbell. And he was talking to the other board member. Because as far as he was concerned, that's not important. Do that on your own time. Board meetings are about strategy. Board meetings are about direction, right? Board meetings are about governance. You want to go through pipeline, do it on your own time. Okay, welcome to Mr. Bill Campbell. And I have to tell you, after the meeting was over, at least my section was over, so I finished my part and I stepped out off the dais, passed the baton to the next person. Bill actually came over and gave me a hug and said, good job. I'd not met Bill Campbell before, but that was my introduction to Bill. And over the course of my time at LoudCloud, I got to know Bill very well. And in essence, he adopted me. He really did. And I have to tell you, that was one of the biggest blessings that I have ever had. What I didn't realize until I got to know him better and did a little bit of research is Bill and I actually had quite a bit in common when you think about it. Because Bill, as you heard from Brad, in his story coming up, he was very much an underdog. And my story, you know, my father didn't graduate from college. Here I am in Silicon Valley, and I'm sure you've seen, everybody looks like me. So I don't have an engineering degree. I didn't graduate from Stanford. I'm East Coast Wharton. So I didn't fit the profile of Silicon Valley CEOs. And I think Bill saw a little bit of that. I think he saw the, what should I say, the passion that I have, the drive that I have, all of that. And he was terrific, absolutely terrific. So not only at LoudCloud, in terms of that very first meeting, but we went through a period. I mean, I was doing pretty well. We were making numbers, we were growing, and we were growing fast. You know, 40% kind of quarter over quarter. I mean, we're growing fast. I'm responsible for sales, so I've got a forecast. All right, I'm doing well, things are trucking along. Then a quarter comes, and 2 big deals that we were supposed to get done slipped. We're a public company. We just whiffed our number, and guess who was responsible? Oh, I cannot tell you how that feels when all that weight is on you. All that weight's on you, and everybody's looking like, man, right? You know, you blew it. And trust me, it didn't matter what everybody else thought. That's what I thought. And I was feeling absolutely terrible. And you heard Dan talk about it. Ring, ring, ring. I got a call. And it's Bill. And Bill's saying, Shellye, you fucked up. I said, yeah, I fucked up. Tell me that, right? He said, but you're the same person you were yesterday. He said, you know what you're doing? You get back on the horse, you get your team lined up. I mean, he gave me this pep talk, right? Which was fantastic. And then, the next thing I know, Mark Andreessen, Mark and Ben were running the company. Mark Andreessen asks me out for lunch, go to lunch, and he gives me that pep talk. And I'm like, you're doing this because Bill told you to do this. But that's okay, because it still feels good. That was the only quarter that I messed up during my time at LoudCloud. And then when LoudCloud went through the period of being sold, we're not really being sold, they kind of sold off 95% of their business to EDS because they were going to morph into a software company called Opsware. And at that time, didn't necessarily need me, and I decided now's the time for me to go after my CEO job. And Bill was right there. And I'll tell you today, I don't know that I would have gotten the CEO job that I got, which today is called MetricStream, if it weren't for Bill. Yes, I leveraged my own network and had meetings, introductions, etc. But this is 2002, 2003, the market had crashed. Lots of CEOs out there with experience that no longer have jobs because companies went under that are looking for jobs. And here's Shellye. I'm not from the Valley, don't have an engineering degree, I don't look like everybody else, and oh, by the way, it's going to be my first time CEO. People weren't necessarily knocking down my doors to pull me in. But Bill had confidence and faith in me, and he helped open his network up and made introductions. And I ended up getting hired to be CEO of what is now MetricStream by Kleiner Perkins. And I know it happened Because at the end of the day, this VC could call Bill and say, should I do this? And all he had to do was say yes, and that vouch, right, would make it happen. So Bill, major impact. But I'll tell you what, getting the job, that wasn't the end of the story. I took over a company that was in dire straits, as many companies were back then. Didn't have much money, burning a whole lot of cash, hadn't sold a whole lot of new, and frankly what they were selling the market really didn't want. But other than that, it was doing really well. So Bill invited me, said, Shellye, why don't you come over once a quarter, we'll just touch base, see how you're doing, spend some time. And I'll be candid, at the time I didn't even realize the magnitude of the gift that was. But it was fantastic, because I went with my list. But frankly, Bill always had his list. Today we're going to talk about management teams. Today we're going to talk about one-on-ones. Today we're going to talk about, I mean, he had kind of the I'll call it the Bill Campbell playbook, right, that we were going through. And it was tremendous. Because frankly, it wasn't easy. I had a VC on my board who was very demanding, and as Bill used to say, likes to play dirty. And so figuring out how to manage that, he was able to help me. Then I had a board member who decided once we started doing well, hey, you know, this company is going to make it, I think. I want to be CEO. You know what it's like having a board member who wants to be CEO? Their whole focus is figuring out how to make you look better so that they need to make a change. It's probably one of the most challenging things I went through. And Bill was right there to help me with how to get this board member fired. Because it's hard to fire a board member when they're an investor. Because it's written into the little paperwork that says they get a board seat. But it doesn't say that it has to be the person that's sitting in that chair. So they kept the board seat, but not that person. That's something I can tell you over a Bud Light. Now, metric stream. Next piece that I want to cover is, in addition to these quarterly meetings, one of the things that I did personally, because when you're a CEO, you don't have any peers. And if you think about it, for many of you, as you step and become the overall team captains or things like that, you're now the leader. So people either are taking your guidance or you're taking, right, someone else's, but you don't really have peers when you're a CEO. And I needed peers because frankly, this was new to me. I wanted people to bounce ideas off, et cetera, and I couldn't do it to the board because I needed to look like I knew what I was doing. And the team needed to look like I knew what I was doing. So I needed peers to talk to. So I created a group of other women CEOs that were trying to build businesses, and we created our own peer group. And one day I asked Bill if he'd come talk to our group. And he did. And the good news is he loved it. And so we morphed, right, those one-on-ones that I had into quarterly meetings with a group of female CEOs. He helped all of us grow our businesses, sell our businesses, get ready to take it public, whatever. He was amazing. We called ourselves Bill's Ladies. And we were very proud, right, of that fact. One of the things I do to this day is coach and mentor others as much as I can do it, because I want to pass forward what Bill passed to me. And what he passed to me was, and you heard it, so you're going to hear some repeats, and I apologize for that. But what he passed to me was really that it's not just helping someone. As somebody asks a question, asking advice, okay, it's easy to give advice. Bill rarely gave advice. What he did was he asked you questions, he told you stories, he made you come to the conclusions. And so what he taught me was how to do that. It's really easy to tell people what to do. But the next time they face the same problem, or just a slightly different, you haven't really taught them how to think about it. What he taught me was how to help others really grow themselves by how you approach that, by asking the questions. His ability to distill down to the problems was uncanny. You think you're working with something that's super complex and broad, and he could help you bring it right down to here's the nugget. I had a founder on the company that became CEO. And what was happening was, as we're driving strategy and making change, because change was needed, I'm talking to the team about one thing, founder's on my leadership team. We're all trying to get on the same page. Everybody says, yep, we're on the same page, here's where we're going. And then I find out that, you know, team members in the organization are coming to the founder, which is not unusual, because that's the person that kind of got things going, et cetera, and say, well, what do you really think? And the founder's kind of like, well, I'm not sure. I mean, what it did was it started to undermine, right, the overall effect. It was really putting me in a tough situation. I'd talk to the founder, say, listen, let's get aligned, you spend the time, fine. But frankly, to my face, he'd say one thing, but to the team, something else. Went to Bill. Bill said, Shellye, let me tell you a story. He said, this was, I think, believe Intuit when he was CEO. Pulling the team together, they had to make some really hard choices. He talked to each member of the team individually about the choice, had them think about it, reached back later on, one-on-ones again, had a meeting, talked about it, etc. Did one more round of individuals, say, okay, are we all aligned? Here's where we're going. Everybody said yes, got it. Goes to the staff meeting, they lay out, here's the decision.